found a notebook under my bed last month. My name on the cover, my handwriting inside, instructions, observations, dates going back 4 months. I don't remember writing a single word of it. I've been told I sleepwalk. Not seriously, or at least not that I knew of. My college roommate brought it up once, junior year. Said he'd gotten up for water around 2 a.m. and found me standing in the kitchen, just standing there, eyes open, facing the window. He said he spoke to me and I didn't respond, didn't move. He waited a few minutes, then went back to bed. In the morning, I had no memory of it. It happened a second time a few weeks later, same thing, kitchen, window, eyes open, seeing nothing. He stopped bringing it up after a while. I think it made him uneasy. It made me uneasy too, so I was glad to let it go. That was 6 years ago. I haven't thought about it much since, until 4 weeks ago when I found the notebook. Pale blue cover, a 5 size, pushed under my bed flat against the wall like it had been slid there on purpose. Not dropped, placed. I don't buy notebooks. I never have. I'm fully digital. Notes, reminders, lists, everything goes in my phone. I don't own a single notebook. I haven't since college. I pulled it out and sat on the edge of the bed. My name was written on the inside cover. My handwriting. I know my handwriting. The way the letters lean slightly right, the way I close my A's, the way I write the letter G. 30 years of the same hand. This was mine. I turned to the first entry, dated 4 months ago. A grocery list, a work deadline, a reminder to call my mother on Thursday. Perfectly normal, calm, exactly the kind of thing I'd write on a slow Tuesday morning when I was trying to get my thoughts in order. I have no memory of writing it. I sat there for a long time, just holding it, trying to find the reason that made sense. Maybe I'd bought it and forgotten. Maybe I'd been tired, running on autopilot. People do things without really noticing. That's not strange. I turned the pages. Entries 2 or 3 times a week. Early on, grocery runs, work notes, scattered thoughts, the kind of private writing that sounds like the inside of your own head. I knew the voice. It was mine. Then, around week 6, everything changed. The lists stopped. What replaced them were notes, my own routine written out in careful detail. What time I woke up, what I ate, which route I walked to work, how long I sat at my desk before getting up. Written about myself like I was someone else. Leaves apartment at 8:14. Coffee from the same place on the corner. Window seat, if available. Always the window seat. I read that line 4 times. Notes about myself. Specific, patient, accurate. I do always take the window seat. Written as if by someone watching me from outside. Tracking me. Building a picture. The handwriting was still mine. I closed the notebook and set it on the bed beside me. I sat in my apartment in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon, completely still, and tried to find the exact feeling in my chest. It wasn't confusion. I'd moved past that quickly. It was the feeling you get when you realize something has been going on for a long time without you knowing. That slow, cold understanding that the world has been doing something behind your back and you're only now turning around. I didn't know what I was more afraid of, that I had written it or that I hadn't. I didn't sleep well that night. I kept the notebook on my desk, in plain sight, set at a specific angle so I'd know if it moved. I told myself I was being careful, logical. I was collecting facts, not falling apart. I took photos of every page with my phone and saved them. Then I sat down and read the notes again, slowly, looking for anything I'd missed. The routine entries were accurate in a way that bothered me more the longer I looked. Not just roughly right, exactly right. Times, down to the minute. Details I wouldn't have thought to write down on purpose. The fact that I always check my phone twice before leaving the apartment, once at the door and once in the elevator. The fact that I stop on the second floor landing sometimes for no reason I've ever been able to explain. Small, specific, private habits. The kind you only catch in someone if you've been watching them for a long time. I read it the way you read something that keeps almost making sense, like a word you know but can't place. Then I found the line I'd missed the first time, buried in an entry from 6 weeks back, between a note about my work schedule and a detail about my grocery run. Blue sedan, same space, third time this week. Doesn't vary. I stopped. I live on a quiet street. There's a small parking area outside my building. I don't own a car. I've never paid attention to the cars outside. I read the line again. Then I went to my window and looked out. There was a blue sedan in the lot. I don't know if it's the same one. I don't know if it's been there before. I had no way to check. And that was exactly the problem. Whatever part of me had been writing those entries had been paying attention to things I'd completely ignored. I went back through every entry after that with the sedan in mind. It showed up 4 more times, always noted briefly without alarm, just a detail, just a fact, until the last mention, 2 weeks before I found the notebook. Sedan again, different plates. I read that 3 times. Different plates. Same car, different plates. Or different car, same spot. Either way, someone had noticed. Someone had been careful enough to catch that one detail. I looked out the window again. The lot was empty. I sat at my desk until 2 a.m., reading, not finding anything new. Just reading. 3 days after I found it, the notebook moved. Not far. I'd set it at a specific angle on my desk, one corner lined up with the edge. That morning, it was straight, flat, like someone had lined it up neatly. I opened it. New entry, dated last night. Same handwriting, same black pen from my desk. Calm, neat, unhurried. Still watching. Routine unchanged. He parks in the same spot every time. 3rd floor, left window. Always leaves the light on. I read it standing up. Didn't sit down. He, 3rd floor, left window. That's my apartment. I went to the window, looked down at the street. At the angle, someone would need to clearly see my window to know which light I leave on, to know which floor I'm on. There's a bus shelter across the road, a direct line of sight. Easy. I stood there for a long time. Then I went back through every entry one more time, this time only looking for things outside my apartment, things in the building, the street, the area around me. I found 7. A shadow in the lobby that the entry said didn't match any resident. A sound on the stairs at 3 a.m. noted twice. A door in the building that was always left slightly open when it should have been closed. I'd read them as background, small details, the kind of thing a restless, wakeful mind might write down. Now I read them as records. Whatever was writing these entries wasn't just tracking me. It was tracking something else, too. Something that had been outside. And it had been doing both at once, watching me, watching it, with the same quiet patience for months. I took a photo of the new entry. Then I sat down and tried to think about what kind of person, what kind of mind could do that. The answer that kept coming back was one I didn't want. Not a confused mind, not a broken one, a focused one. I went to a doctor that week. I described everything without showing her the notebook. I kept it simple, calm, tried to sound like someone listing symptoms and not someone who'd spent 3 nights barely sleeping. She asked about stress, sleep, whether I'd had any big life changes in the past year. She used the word dissociative carefully. Not a diagnosis, a direction. She said some people go through periods where they do complex things with no memory of it. Writing, organizing, even driving. She said stress could bring it on. Broken sleep could make it worse. She sent me to a therapist. I've been going twice a week. It helps, I think. The sessions give me somewhere to put things, but there's something I haven't told the therapist. Something that happened 4 days ago that I've been sitting with alone, turning over and over, trying to find the angle where it makes sense. I found a new entry. Different ink, same handwriting, same shapes, same lean, but different. Slower, more careful. Every letter placed like it was thought about first. I read it standing at my desk at 6 a.m. with the city still dark outside. You've been reading this. I know you have. You took photos of the pages. You read them twice, sometimes 3 times. You've been trying to find the pattern. You're close, but you're looking at the wrong thing. Stop watching the notebook. Watch the door. I stood there for a long time. Then I looked at the door. Normal, closed, both locks set the way I always leave them. I checked the hallway. Empty. The stairwell. Empty. I came back and stood in the middle of my apartment and tried to name what I was feeling. Not fear. Something older than fear. The feeling of being known. Whatever wrote those words, whatever version of me put that ink on that page, it wasn't lost or confused. It had been watching me the same way I'd been watching it. And it had something to tell me. I started watching the door. I moved my desk so I could see the hallway from where I sat. I logged sounds on my phone, times, details, anything that felt off. Not because I thought I'd catch something, because writing things down was the only thing that made me feel like I had any ground under me. For 5 days, nothing. On the 6th night, I woke up at 3:17 a.m. Not slowly, all at once, fully awake, the way your body wakes you when it has already picked up on something and is only now telling your mind. I lay still in the dark and listened. At first, just the building, pipes, the low sound of the street outside, normal sounds I knew well by then. Then something else. From the hallway, just past my door, a slow, soft drag, like weight being moved carefully across the floor. Controlled, quiet. The sound of something that didn't want to be heard and almost wasn't. Then it stopped. Silence. Long enough that I started to tell myself I'd made it up. Then breathing. Slow, steady, close. Right on the other side of the door, close enough that I could hear the exact rhythm of it. In, pause, out. In, pause, out. Patient. I didn't move. I didn't reach for my phone. I lay in the dark and listened to someone breathe on the other side of my door. I don't know how long it lasted. It felt like a long time. Then footsteps moved away, quiet, unhurried, toward the stairwell. A door opened and closed somewhere below, then real silence. In the morning, I checked the hallway. On my doormat, a pen, blue ink, slightly thicker than what I use. I knew the type right away. Same ink as that last entry, the careful one, the one that told me to watch the door. I hadn't bought it. I crouched down and looked at it for a long time without touching it. Not a message, a confirmation. They knew what I'd noticed. They'd read the same entries I had, and they wanted me to know that. I found the storage unit in the notebook. I'd gone back through the earliest entries, the normal ones, the lists, looking for anything I'd skipped over. And there it was, near the bottom of a page from 3 months ago, written between a dentist reminder and a work note. Unit 114, code, birthday, paid through end of year. Don't forget the lamp. I read it 4 times before I moved. I looked up the address. Real place, 20 minutes across the city. I went on a Tuesday afternoon. I walked in, gave my name at the front desk. The man typed something without looking up. Unit 114, paid through end of year. He printed a slip and slid it across the counter, like it was routine, like I'd been there before. The unit was at the back, past 2 long rows of orange rolling doors. I stood outside 114 for a while. I tried my birthday on the lock. It opened. Inside, a folding chair in the center of the room, a plastic box, sealed. A second notebook on top, same pale blue cover as the first. And in the corner, a small battery-powered lamp, already on. Warm light, steady, like it had been running for a while. Like the room had been left ready. I stood in the doorway and looked at the chair, at the lamp, at the notebook set carefully on top of the box, like something meant to be found in a specific order. Then I sat down. I didn't decide to, I just sat. I opened the notebook. 1 line on the first page, in that same careful hand. You took longer than I expected, but you're here now. Read everything. Don't skip anything. The order matters. The lamp hummed quietly behind me. I turned to the next page and started reading. The second notebook was a log. Structured, timed, exact. Entries dated down to the hour. Not observations this time. A record of things done on purpose, in order, over months. The first entries described setting up the unit, picking this specific place, buying the chair, the lamp, the lock, choosing a code I would know. The entries were careful, written without feeling, the way you'd write down the steps of a job. Reading it felt like finding the plan for something that had already been built around me. Then around the 3rd week, a phrase showed up for the first time. 2 words at the end of an entry. No explanation, no context. He's back. I stopped on that page for a long time. I kept reading. The entries changed after that, less about the unit, more about the apartment. Small things noted plainly. A window left open that hadn't been opened. A smell that came and went. A chair in a different spot than I'd left it. Then, don't let him see you noticing. Then, 4 entries later, the one that made me put the notebook down. He's been inside. Locks were set. No sign of how he got in. I don't know. I sat in that storage unit under the hum of the lamp, completely still. Whatever part of me had written these entries, whatever ran in the hours I couldn't reach, it had been scared. Not out of control, not falling apart. Quietly, carefully, exactly scared. The way you're scared when you've had time to really understand something and the understanding is worse than not knowing. And it had spent months building this room, this chair, this light, leaving a path for the version of me that could only follow. I looked at the door. I'd left it open when I came in. It was closed. I sat very still and looked at the closed door. I hadn't heard it move. The lamp was the only sound. A faint hum, steady, the same as before. No footsteps, no draft. The door had simply closed while I was reading and I hadn't noticed. I crossed the room and opened it. Empty hallway, overhead lights, the far-off sound of a radio at the front desk. Nothing else. I walked home with both notebooks. I locked the door. I sat at my kitchen table and didn't touch them again until it was fully light outside. Then I went through my phone. I'd been putting it off for weeks. Some part of me already knew what I was going to find. I opened my camera roll and scrolled back 4 months. 43 photos I don't remember taking. My apartment, my street, my building entrance, shot from across the road at a low angle, slightly upward, the kind of angle you'd use if you were standing still and trying not to be seen. My route to work, the corner where I buy coffee, the window seat I always take. In 7 of them, at the far edge of the frame, a figure, still, far away, always facing the same direction, facing my building. I checked the data on the photos, times, locations. Most of it was normal. One wasn't. My front door. Shot from inside, close, the kind of distance you'd stand at if you were reaching for the handle. Time, 3:47 a.m. Location, my living room, within a few feet. Someone had stood in my living room at 3:47 in the morning and taken a photo of my front door. Both locks set, no forced entry, nothing disturbed. I zoomed in on the photo. The door, the frame, the peephole glass. In the round reflection of the peephole, small, slightly bent, but there, a shape, standing behind the camera, looking back. I went back through both notebooks the next morning, looking for every mention of nighttime. There were more than I'd seen before, mostly short. Sounds on the stairs, the lobby door, the specific quiet of 3 a.m. that the entries described in a way I knew because I'd been lying awake in it. But mixed in among those were something else. Notes about waking up. Not from noise, just waking, suddenly, fully, the way your body does when it's already sensed something before your mind catches up. The entries recorded it plainly. Woke at 3:09. Nothing. Back to sleep at 4:40. Woke at 2:55. Sound from hallway. Waited. Nothing found. Woke at 3:17. Breathing outside door. Did not open it. Correct. I stopped on that last line. Did not open it. Correct. That wasn't a record. That was a judgment. A decision made in the dark at 3 a.m. assessed afterward. And it was written with the certainty of something that had already thought it through, something that already knew what would have happened if the door had opened. I looked at the margins on those pages. The tally marks were there, small, neat, 1 per night. The ones I'd seen before, next to the gaps between entries. I counted them again. All of them. From the first notebook to the second. 83. 83 nights marked in the margins, some in gaps, some on days with entries, some grouped together, 4 or 5 in a row, and some alone. But always the same mark, same size, same pressure through both notebooks. Not recording what had happened, recording what had been waited for. I put the notebooks down and looked at my front door. Both locks set, same as always. I thought about 3:47 a.m., the shape in the peephole, the 83 marks, and I tried to figure out how long something could wait before it stopped waiting. I told my therapist about the photos. Not everything, not the storage unit, not the second notebook, not the marks in the margins, just the photos. I showed her the data on my phone. I watched her face while she looked. She didn't brush it off. That was the first thing I noticed. She asked if I had any history of doing things in my sleep that I didn't remember. She already knew about the sleepwalking. She asked if I'd ever found signs of activity I couldn't explain. Food moved, lights left on, things in different places. I told her about the notebook. I showed her some entries. She looked at them for a long time. Then she said, carefully, that some people in certain mental states can do very organized things, driving, cooking, writing, with no memory of it at all. She said the mind can work clearly during these episodes while the person is completely unaware. I asked about the photos taken from the street. She paused, long enough that I noticed, long enough that she noticed I'd noticed. She said she wanted to set me up for a sleep study. She also said, quietly, as I was putting my coat on, that if I had any worries about my safety, I should tell someone I trusted, a friend, family, someone nearby. I nodded. I thanked her. I drove home slowly, because that pause had told me something she hadn't said out loud. Up until that point, every explanation had turned back inward. My mind, my behavior, my episodes. I could work with that. I could get help for that. But a sleep study doesn't explain a figure standing outside my building at 2 a.m. And her pause meant she knew it too. She just couldn't say so. There are things I've started doing. Practical things, because practical things are the only things that feel like they belong to me right now. I bought a door bar, a floor-mounted lock. I put a small camera in my hallway, aimed at my front door, set to trigger on motion. I stopped changing my daily routine, which sounds strange, but the entries had suggested that keeping things steady was safer, less room for the edges of the day to go unnoticed. I told a friend I'd been having some safety concerns. Didn't say more than that. We set up a check-in, a text every evening before 10 p.m. These things helped. They gave me some control. What didn't help was what I found on the inside back cover of the second notebook. I thought I'd read everything. I'd gone through both notebooks carefully many times, but I'd missed the back inside cover. It was written in pencil, small and faint, easy to miss if you weren't looking for it. 11 lines, dates, times, places, all from the past 3 weeks. My therapist's office. The exact time I arrive and the exact time I leave, written down 5 times across 3 weeks. The coffee shop where I met my friend last Tuesday. The street where I park when I visit my mother. This wasn't in the notebook when I found it. I would have seen it. Someone had written in the notebook after I took it from the storage unit, after I brought it home, after I locked my door. I checked both locks, set. No sign of anyone getting in, nothing out of place. The pencil marks were fresh. I could tell by how sharp the lines were, how clean the edges. Someone had been in my apartment, while I was in it. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the corner of my bedroom with the light on, the door bar set, and my phone in my hand, and I went through everything again from the start. Every entry, every photo, every mark in every margin. I was looking for something I'd missed, some thread I hadn't followed. Because the other option, that I'd found everything and it still didn't add up, was something I couldn't sit with. I found it at 4 a.m. In the first notebook, week 3 of the entries where the tone had changed. I'd read this section many times, but I'd always read the entries themselves, not the space around them. At the bottom of one page, below the final entry, was a date. Not an old date, a future one, from when the entry was written. It was last Tuesday. And below the date, an address. Not the storage unit, a different address. Closer, a street 10 minutes from my apartment. I knew where it was. The road that runs behind my building. The one I never use because it's longer, poorly lit, a dead end that leads to the service entrance. Below the address, one line. Don't go at night. Go in the morning. Take everything with you. I looked at that line for a long time. Then I looked at the date. Last Tuesday. I'd been at the storage unit last Tuesday. I'd sat in that chair and read the second notebook. I'd found the closed door. I'd come home and looked at the photos. I hadn't gone to that address. I didn't know it existed. Until now. I put the notebook down and turned off the light. I sat in the dark and made a choice. In the morning, I was going. I went at 9 a.m. I brought both notebooks. I brought my phone fully charged, camera already open. I texted my friend where I was going and said I'd check in within an hour. The street was quiet. Houses on one side, a service lane on the other. The back wall of my building ran along it. Utility doors, a loading area. I'd passed the entrance to this street hundreds of times and never turned down it. I walked slowly, reading numbers, looking at doors, finding the address from the notebook. It was a door, plain, set into the wall of the building next to mine. Not my building, the one attached to it. Same block, different entrance. Metal, gray, slightly newer than the wall around it. A number pad beside it. I stood in front of it. I tried my birthday. It clicked open. Inside, a stairwell. Concrete, bright lights, clean. The door closed behind me. I stood at the bottom of the stairs and listened. Nothing. I went up one floor. A hallway. Closed doors, numbered, the kind of layout that belongs to a building with flats above and offices below. I walked slowly to the end. One door was different. No number. A small mark on the frame, faint, pencil. The same mark from the notebook margins. I stopped in front of it. From inside, silence. I raised my hand to knock, and before I could, the door opened. No one was there. The door swung inward on its own, or nearly. The latch hadn't caught. It drifted open a few inches and stopped. I pushed it the rest of the way. A small room, clean, barely any furniture. A table, 2 chairs. A window with the blind pulled down, thin light coming in around the edges. And on the table, a single sheet of paper, face down, held in place by a pen. Blue ink. I crossed the room and turned the paper over. My handwriting. Sit down. There's one more thing you need to know. You've been asking the wrong question this whole time. You keep asking, who's been doing this? You should be asking, why you needed to find out. I stood there and read it twice. Then I sat down. Because sitting felt like the only honest response to something I had no words for. I thought about my roommate finding me in the kitchen at 2 a.m., eyes open, seeing nothing. I thought about 83 marks in the margins. I thought about the shape in the peephole. I thought about a mind, my mind, that had apparently been awake in the dark for months, watching something I couldn't see, building a path I was only now reaching the end of. And I thought, what does it know that I don't? What did it see in all those dark hours that it couldn't just tell me directly? What is so hard to say that it needed months of notebooks, storage units, and locked rooms to say it? The pen was on the table in front of me. Blue ink. I picked it up. I turned the paper over to the blank side, and I started to write. I don't know how long I was in that room. I wrote until my hand hurt. Everything. Not a log, not notes, not a list, just everything I could pull up. Memories I hadn't thought about in years, faces, places. A feeling I'd been carrying so long I'd stopped noticing how heavy it was. I'm not going to write here what came out. Not because I don't remember, because some of it doesn't fit in a document like this. One I'm writing to be clear, to be believed, to show that I was thinking straight through all of it. Some of what I wrote in that room doesn't fit that frame. What I'll say is this. When I finished, I sat for a while with what I'd written, and for the first time since I found the notebook, since any of this began, the fear went quiet. Not gone, quiet. Like something that had been standing just behind me had taken a small step back. I folded the paper, put it in my pocket, left the pen on the table. I walked back down the hall and the stairwell and out onto the street. It was late morning. Normal. People and coffee and the sound of a city going about its day. I texted my friend. 1 hour and 40 minutes had passed. I walked home the long way, past the bus shelter across from my building. I stopped there and looked up at my window. 3rd floor, left side. The light was off. I'd turned it off before I left. I stood there for a moment in the spot where something had stood, looking up at the same window. Then I went inside. That was 11 days ago. The notebook hasn't been touched since. I check it every morning. Position, angle, the exact way I leave it. And every morning it's the same. No new entries, no blue ink, no marks in the margins. The camera in my hallway has picked up nothing unusual. It goes off when I leave and come back. Nothing at 3 a.m. No footsteps, no sound at the door. I've slept through the night 4 times, more than I managed in the 2 months before that combined. I haven't gone back to the room on that street, but I think about it. I think about the question on that paper. Why did you need to find out? I've turned it over so many times now it's started to change on me, the way a word does when you say it too many times. At first, it felt like it was accusing me of something. Now it feels more like something being handed to me, a reason to look at something I'd been turning away from. I'm still in therapy. The sleep study is next month. I'm still keeping my log, still checking in with my friend, still doing the practical things that give me solid ground. I don't know what the figure in those photos was. I don't know who breathed outside my door at 3 a.m. or how those pencil marks appeared in my notebook after I brought it home. I don't know if the answer is medical, some part of my mind more awake than the rest, or something else, something I don't have a name for. What I know is this: something in me was trying to show me something. It built a path. It waited while I found it. It left every door open at the right moment, every code set to something I'd know. And at the end of the path, in a room I'd never been to, it left me a pen and waited to see if I'd use it. I did. I'm still not sure what I wrote, but I think that was the point.